Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Catriona Morten and I'm a sensory-motor psychotherapist, and today I'd like to talk to you about phobias. And to help support us with these videos, it's brilliant if you can like and subscribe so we can get to as many people out there that need us and help us to help you. We can develop a phobia of about almost anything. The length and breadth of what people are phobic about are huge. If we have a phobia of giraffes, then unless we're going to go to Africa, then we're very unlikely for that to impinge on our life, for that to be a problem. When we develop a phobia about something that's around us an awful lot more, then it's problematic. Phobias are rooted in trauma. They're not necessarily rooted in some, really deep, dark, disturbing trauma. But in all the years that I've been dealing with people, and especially the NHS, I had a lot of people referred to me for phobias. And they'd usually been through CBT. That works for some people. I got the people that they'd been through that and it hadn't worked for them. That this phobia just seemed to absolutely have a grip on them and there wasn't anything they can do. The reason that I say phobia is rooted in trauma is because it's way, way, way more than a dislike of something. We all have things that we're not keen on, that we don't like, but they don't set our nervous system off. A phobia actually can cause somebody to completely freeze, not be able to function, and their nervous system has gone off, and it's not something that they can just shrug off and get on with. It can induce absolute terror and a fear of something. And that's when we know if it's a phobia as opposed to something that we just don't like. What phobias tend to do is they sort of start off as a bit of a reaction to something and then they really build some steam. When it's got so bad that somebody has to come and see a therapist like myself, then it really is getting in the way of normal life. And if you think about phobias to cats and dogs, some people will develop a phobia after being attacked or bitten by a dog or attacked by a cat. That's perfectly understandable because it's been a traumatic experience, and so therefore we have a natural, real visceral response to a dog or a cat. But for some people, the phobias just seem to come from nowhere. They make absolutely zero sense. And there's no kind of, trying to work out and pick out what it is that's at the root of it. It can be really mystifying. So when people come to see me, often I've had a lot of people who are worried that there's some awful deep dark trauma lurking that lies at the bottom of this, and that's why they've got a phobia about something and they're really scared of what they're going to uncover. I've heard that a lot. In my experience, that's not been the case. What can happen is we can have a convergence of things. So if something happens and we're at a particularly low ebb, we're upset, we're not well, or we're lost or feeling really lonely, and something happens. I'll give you an example of somebody that had a severe cat phobia. She'd had a horrible day at school when she was really, really little. She'd really worried that there was going to be no one there to collect her when she left school. And there was, but she was very, very upset. She'd had a horrible day. And as she was walking home, there was a squashed cat at the side of the road. Now, those things just converged. So all her upset and all her worries that, when we're little, those things are massive. They'd kind of fused together with this image of the squashed cat at the side of the road. All she was aware of as she grew up and went into adult life was that she was becoming more and more averse to cats. By the time it was at its peak, that this person couldn't even watch a cat on the television, let alone sit in a room with one, let alone be okay with one walking past. It was a really big thing. When we did some EMDR with it, and you know, that's just working on, imagine looking at a cat, remembering the last time you saw a cat and you went into a freeze response, and just allowing your brain and your body to go where it needs to go with that. And we backtracked onto these things, and lo and behold, when we're able to process that, the impact, because that was a trauma, and so the impact of witnessing a cat or being around a cat became way less. It wasn't charged. They might never want a cat. They might never, you know, want to pet a cat. That's not the point. The point is that it doesn't absolutely floor you and make your life really limiting. Phobias can really limit your life and what you're able to do because of the terror and the dread of encountering this thing that you're really phobic of. When someone comes to me with a phobia, and sometimes that can look like a really extreme reaction to something. I've seen people be wrongly diagnosed with OCD because they can't bear to touch something that's sticky or has a certain texture. It just sends them into a kind of revulsion, and in order to not encounter this thing, it's like a magnet repelling. They absolutely can't even go near it, they can't look at it, let alone encounter it. Again, there'll be things that have just happened randomly that mean that that person's now sensory experience of that thing just sets the nervous system off, because there's something that just lodged itself in your amygdala, in your trauma centre, that is firing off every single time and taking your nervous system with it, which is why it's like, oh, that thing, I just can't bear it. I have to do everything I can to avoid it or to get away from it. You know, phobias can be extremely debilitating, and they can seem to kind of grow in their kind of power and their intensity. But understanding that there might be something that's a trauma that's lying at the root of it makes it much easier to approach and to treat. And I have treated the most bizarre phobias, but they're real things for people. When someone's got a phobia, I take that very, very seriously, because I get how it can impact on their life. But just to know that there is a treatment out there, if you find a trauma therapist that can help you with something like EMDR or widening your window of tolerance for this thing, managing your nervous system, knowing what happens as your nervous system goes off, then either you can have the capacity to deal with it so it doesn't impact you in the same kind of way, or you can get something like EMDR that will help you process and get back to the origins and take the heat out of it, and it'll move it from your trauma centre that's setting your nervous system off into something that's just a faded bad memory, but you're not reacting to this thing. I hope that helps understand and demystify what a phobia is and why it is such a big deal for people. It's not something to just be kind of laughed at. It can be extremely debilitating, but there's help out there. You don't have to live with this. There is help, there is treatment. You can get free from your phobia. Instead of it having its vice-like grip around you and limiting your life, you can deal with it and reclaim it, and this thing for it not to be such a big deal in your life. So I really hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. And again, if you like this video, then please like, subscribe to our channel below, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye!